So this is the last session of poetry, and I would like to invite Professor Niaz Zaman to chair this session. Professor Zaman retired as Professor of English, University of Dhaka. Her short story, The Dance, won an Asia Week Award. Author of The Dance and Other Stories and The Maidens Club. Her translation of Qazi Nazrul Islam's novel Mrityuk Shuda was published as Love and Death in Krishnanagar in 2015. In 2013, she received the Ananya Award for Literature, and in 2016, the Lekhika Sangh Award for Translation. Professor Dr. Niaz Zaman. जी, अब आप उनको बुला दीजिए. You know the session?
And Assalamu Alaikum. This is a very beautiful gesture, but I don't know whether it conceals a weapon or no. Assalamu Alaikum, good afternoon and Namaste. Little correction. This session is a combined session of poetry readings and paper presentations. If you look at your program, it's supposed to start at 4:50, but surprisingly, we are starting early at 4:20. But I would like to continue till 5:30 because we have some poetry readings and some presentations. That said, I would like to call on stage Professor Shiv Prakash from India, Dr. Ashraf Jewel. Has he come? Oh, he was not well, he said, and I had requested him to give me a copy of his paper, but he didn't give you anything, did he, Nurul Huda? No. And then there is, I'm sorry, forgive me if I mispronounce your name, Guna Tilaka Srivardhana Charit Priyadarshan from Sri Lanka. Muhammad Humayun Hiwat from Afghanistan. Is he here? Muhammad Humayun Hiwat. And Dr. A.J. Thomas from India. And I myself will be here. We actually had 4 paper presenters, and now we have the addition of 2 poets. I will act as the chairperson, and then I'll take the example of Chadur, who did a beautiful job. She acted as chairperson and then she became the presenter. But before I begin, I would really like to thank, first of all, I'd like to thank Ajit Ji, and because I'll be very honest with you, I'm not a Sufi scholar, I'm not a Buddhist scholar. I came here just for her. I'll be very, very honest. And then, of course, I would like to thank Sahitya Akademi. This is a wonderful place. This is the first time I've been here, and the food has been really wonderful. I'd like, of course, to thank FOSWAL. I'd like to thank Arpana for her constant support to her mother and to this organization. I'd like to thank Dr. Anand Kumar, who has left for Auroville, but I hope that he will organize a scholarly and celebratory conference on Sufism sometime in Pondicherry. Okay, I would, Professor Shiv Prakash, I've been told by Dr. Anand Kumar that there is no time limit, but I think people get very tired at the end of the day. So would other poets got 6 minutes. Is 10 minutes all right for you? Okay. Okay, I'd like to read out what I have in this book on Professor Shiv Kumar. Professor Shiv Kumar is Professor. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Professor Shiv Prakash is Professor Theatre and Performance Studies, JNU, New Delhi. He is the author of 9 books of poems, 15 plays, and 3 critical works in Kannada, which are widely discussed, performed, and translated into several Indian languages and into English, Spanish, French, Italian, German, Polish, and Turkish. He is a winner of the prestigious Rajat Sattva Award, is that how you pronounce it, from Karnataka State in 2006, and Sangeet Natak Akademi Award from National Theatre Academy 1997, and Sahitya Akademi Award 2012. He has participated in the International Writing Program in the School of Letters, University of Iowa, USA. He is the former editor, Indian Literature, the Journal of National Academy of Letters. Professor Shiv Prakash.
Because this is a poets meet centering around 2 of my favorite themes, Sufism and Buddhism, let me first read a Sufi poem, then a Buddhist poem. A Sufi poem is called Shams Tabriz. People who know something about Sufism, I don't need to explain what it is. For others, Shams Tabriz was Jalaluddin Rumi's spiritual master. He was a very unconventional kind of saint, and because Rumi was a Maulana, started following him, Rumi's followers got jealous of Shams and he was brutally murdered. And the legend goes that he was flayed. Rumi wore his skin around his neck, and in those moments of ecstasy, he started dancing. That's how the Sufi dance originated. And then these verses poured of him. It's called, this work in Persian is called Diwan Shams Tabriz. But this poem is about this episode when Shams Tabriz was murdered and spoken by Rumi. I am not reading the original because there is no time, reading only the translation. The rose gardens have turned into slaughterhouses today. Another lover was murdered at the tavern today. From every bunch of grapes, in every vineyard, oozes not wine, but blood. Only blood. Shams Tabriz, your blood. Tell me, Saki, where is the road to Mecca? Where have dried up the living waters of Zamzam? Nightmares stalk Konya, the plunder of Kaaba, the flight of the Quran from the leprous world, the battalions of lions pouring in from jungles, cities and villages reduced to heaps of bones, and the stink of corpses. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. What are we? What are we but pawns on your chessboard? What are we but flutes for your notes to blow through? What are we but flags flapping in your invisible wind? Now, when another mother's breast is cut off, another baby is smashed to the ground, where is the sword? Where is the sword? The sword that Mustafa, the gift of Mustafa, the sword of peace. Stop your prayers, kinsman. Tell me first, where they murdered my beloved, where they buried the sons of his eyes, and the picture of his heart overflowing with the honey of poetry. You worldlings who call Rumi mad, your share of hell still remains. My share of paradise is lost forever. The paradise that shone in Sham's eyes. He was a husband to me. He, the infant, who put his lips to my breast and lent tongue to my silent dreams. Beside him was Mecca. Next to him was Medina. In his heart dwelt Mustafa too. Where was gender in our love? Where were bodies in our love? Khizr, who guide wanderers through the desert to the fresh water springs, come wherever you are, dig up for me bits of Shams's flesh. Here alone is some poetry. Here alone is some poetry. Here alone is some poetry. And now I read a Buddhist poem. This poem is called Ambapali. Everybody knows the story of Ambapali. She was a famous courtesan who became Buddha's follower. Where was it? What was it before you came, O Ambapali, this Vesali? What had it given before you came, O Ambapali? The nomad Malaya breeze now rests by your side, O Ambapali. The mango grows bursting with foliage. In the mango grows bursting with foliage. Every fruit covered, hiding, takes on its shape and meaning in your body and sex inside, outside you. The sun and the moon, waiting in two separate prisons of the day and the night, have now found the same house in your face, the same light in your eyes. What was Vesali before you came, O Ambapali? After you came, his days have turned into nights, your dreams have turned into nights, the dreams have turned nights into days. Before you came, the cry of gold ran through Vesali. Give me a jewel of life. The cry of silk drifted through Vesali. Give me a skirt of life. Until you came. Everywhere, the rule of masters over slaves, the fury of rags against pure gold, the conflict of dogmas and doctrines. After you came, no more masters but only slaves. Your slaves, bags of gold are only rags, no more dogmas and doctrines. All debates are at an end. A loud clamor resounds everywhere. What will guard us from this onslaught? From afar, a cool breeze, but when near, a hurricane. What will guard us from you, O Ambapali, O tempest in which whirls the human world like dry leaves? Before you came, Vesali was only Vesali. But now, Vesali is also Magadha, Kosambi and Varanasi. All kings are your beggars at your door, all heroes are your prisoners, all wealth is worthless dust, all hearts, eyes and hands are begging bowls, begging for you, for your love, O Ambapali. When thus beauty turns into curse, when wealth means disaster to Vesali, when your forelocks portend the dissolution of the three worlds, there must appear on the eastern horizon a blossomed lotus, a begging bowl, the smile of the moon on the face of the sun. Buddha, the king of beggars, Buddha, the best of yogis, must stretch before you his begging bowl of emptiness, not for prisoners but for the prison, not for slaves but for the slave owner, not for Vesali but for you, O Ambapali. What will become of Vesali after you, O Ambapali? What will it give it to us after it gives you away, O Ambapali? Thank you.
Can you do that?
My services.
Yeah, then your service. Okay. Okay, so Sheet Prakash, that was really beautiful. Did you compose them for this conference, or have they been
Years ago, decades ago.
decades ago?
I prepared for this conference decades ago.
You prepared for this conference decades ago. Assalamu alaikum ji, namaste, Sat Sri Akal. Thank you so much. Two of our speakers are absent. Has Humayun Hawat from Afghanistan आ गया? नहीं आया? नहीं आया. अच्छा. So two of them are absent. Ashraf Jewel was not feeling well. I don't think he's going to come. So Anand Kumar ji, कुछ सजेशन है आपका? क्या ये ज़्यादा टाइम दे दूं इनको? 5:30 बजे के पहले तो चाय नहीं तैयार होगी. Okay, all right. So two are missing actually. Yes.
If she is here, she can come. Miss Yadav. Miss Yadav can come if she is here.
Miss Yadav.
Miss Yadav. You know, it's so difficult. You know, we belong to the same subcontinent, but we are divided by language. And like, you know, the A in Priyadarshan, it's spelled Priyadarshana. In Bangla, I would not pronounce that final A. So it's, you know, so similar and yet so different. I'd like to introduce him. G.S. Charit Priyadarshana is lecturer in the Department of Religious Studies and Comparative Philosophy, Faculty of Buddhist Studies in Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka. He is a research scholar in religious studies and comparative philosophy. His fields of interest are religion and contemporary issues, comparative philosophy, Buddhist studies, diverse religious practices, and so on. He is convinced that religion is for ethical development and spiritual development of society. The podium is yours. And we were supposed to have 10 minutes, but since there's no one else, and if you've got something interesting to say, 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, madam. First of all, I would like to thank for the members of Sahitya Akademi, especially Madam Majid Kaur and other members. And good evening, all of you, dear ladies and gentlemen, and my dear presenters in this session. I am Charit Priyadarshana from Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka. My presentation topic is actually Buddhism is essential to the furtherance of peace among religious diversity in modern world. Actually, through this our conference also regarding to South Asian festival of Sufism and Buddhism. Actually, this one also based on religious perspectives, especially based on the main religions. We focus on Buddhism and Sufism. Here, my paper is basically focus about the Buddhist perspective on society. How we can apply Buddhism to the society. And first of all, I would like to give an idea about the religion. When we examine, when we look at the society in modern world, there are so many religious conflicts and religious issues, religious controversies. Then why they arise? So then many of social conflicts and social issues arise because of religion. Then, first of all, we have to think why there is religion. Why do we need a religion? There are many kind of religions, many kind of religious teachings, but people are practicing their own religion. I think the basic reason, main reason of these religious conflicts are the people do not have the purpose of the existence of religion in this society. Then I practice my religion and you practice your religion. Actually, for example, people are practicing their own religion as individually, but they do not have enough understanding about the others' religious practices and values of others' religions. On this condition, like this kind of academic events are very important to understand the values and respectful teachings of other religions as well. First of all, when we consider about the Buddhist perspectives and Buddhist religious backgrounds, and some people call Buddhism is not a religion as well as a philosophy. According to my perspective, Buddhism is a philosophy as well as a religion. Then there are both characteristics. Actually, when we consider about the Buddhist teachings of Buddha, then we can identify the major approaches to the society. Then he explained, and actually the religious leaders was not the religion, and then Buddha was not a Buddhist, and Jesus Christ was not a Christian, and Islam, Muhammad Nabi was not a Islam. Like that, these religious people, religious founders and prophets were not religious actually. Later on, according to the significance of their religious teachings and their philosophical explanations, those religions has become religion as well as philosophies. Then on this condition, the philosophical view of Buddha describes and gives an answer to the questions: what is the peace among human beings? How has the concept of peace gone away from the world? And he has taught how can achieve and establish a peaceful mind in the society. In Buddhism, there are ethical and philosophical teachings for these current social issues. On this condition, we can find out what are the, we can discuss what are the main teachings of Buddhism regarding to the peace and harmony of the society. Actually, in Buddhism, the explanations and philosophical approach of Buddhism is we can identify as a cosmic explanations. That philosophy is actually, Buddha never said that his teaching is based on is Buddhist. Actually, he explained the nature and the processes of the universe and human beings and the changing nature of human beings. This is the teachings and the philosophical background of Buddha. And Buddhism is, we can identify as a common values and common nature of the universe and human beings. On the other hand, in modern world, actually the basic reason of many of religious issues in theistic and atheistic religions, there is no chance to practice pre-thinking. Then it is critical thinking. Actually, that is very important. In Buddhism, there is no such boundaries, and then Buddhists have their own rights to question the teachings in Buddhism. Then, for example, as you know, in the Kalama Sutta, there are 10 rules, 10 guidance. Then people can question about their own religion and their own religious teachings. Then because the understanding of religious teachings or religious practices is our personal thing. then we have to understand the meaning and what we are following, what we are doing, and regarding the faiths of religion, then that is very important. If you can identify the nature and the significance and the practical values of our religious activities, then there may not be social conflicts actually. And that one also very important to identify. Then here I would like to focus on some kind of basic teachings for the society presented in Buddhism. This quotation is from Dhammapada. Is Nahi verena verani sammantita kudachanam averena cha sammanti es dhammo sanantanam. Then in this world, hatred can never be appeased by hatred. Okay, this is the real thing and reality. Hatred can only be appeased by love. This is the eternal law. Then this kind of practices is very important for interreligious understandings and interreligious practices. And on the other hand, this teaching also very important. Buddhists practice these things in their day-to-day lives. Devo vasatu kalena. May the rains rain in due time. Sassa sampatti hetucha. May the harvest be bountiful. Bhiko bhaut lokocha. May the world be satisfied. Raja bhaut dhammiko. May the king be righteous. Idam me jnati nam hotu. Let this be for my relatives. Sukhita hontu jnatyo. Let my relatives be happy. Then actually if we can practice these teachings, these are very basic and very simple to practice, and then our good thoughts can make peace and harmony in this society. Then through these kind of teachings in simple way, actually these are not for the Buddhists. These teachings can practice and everyone in the society, every religious persons. On the other hand, I would like to focus the basic categorizations in the society for social well-beings. When we consider about them, if we can develop these kind of teachings and these part of our life, then we can achieve success and peace in the society. Arogya Paramalabha, physical well-being, then that one is very important. Santutti Paramandaram, mental well-being. And Viswasa Paramanyati, social well-being. And Nibbanam Paramam Sukham, spiritual well-being. Actually, religion is for this social, for the the development of this ethics and morality in the society, as well as finally, and for the development of spirituality of human beings. These two parts is the major functions of religions. Through this, each and every religions are based on these two parts actually. First, the religious teachings apply to the society to develop their mundane life or their ordinary life. Then finally, they need to follow the people into spiritual category, that is in Nibbana or heaven, something like that. In different ways, they have explained it. Like this, in Buddhist perspectives, there are many kind of teachings. Those teachings we can apply for the tolerance and harmony in the society. On this manner, I think the teachings of Buddhism are very important as a cosmic religious teachings as well as cosmic religious values. Thank you very much.
Decided to alternate between poetry and papers. So first I must thank Gunatilaka, Sirivardhana, Charit Priya Darshana. It's a long name. What are you called by your friends? What do your friends call you? Charit. Okay, I'll call you Charit. Okay. I think that was a very interesting paper by Charit. And I think he made a few very important points. He said, we all practice our religions, but we must know about the other religions as well. It's not enough to know just about your own religion, but you also must know about other religions. And the other interesting point that he made was that Jesus wasn't born a Christian, Muhammad wasn't born a Muslim, and Buddha wasn't born a Buddhist. So that is something we should bear in mind. And if I'm not mistaken, I read it many, many years ago. You know, the Buddhist prayer that you read at the beginning, not the last one, but before that, may the rain fall and may the harvest grow. From where is it? You read a few lines. That's a prayer, right? It's a Buddhist prayer. Because in Qurratul Ain Haidar's Akademi, the Urdu, her original Urdu version, it begins with the meeting of a Hindu and a Buddhist friend, and it ends with, I think, the same Buddhist prayer. But when many years later she translated her own book, she omitted the prayer for whatever reason. And I did have the good fortune to meet her, but she could be a very obstinate person. I'm sure those of you who lived in Delhi knew that. And she didn't want to talk about anything that was what I considered important. So thank you, Charit, for reminding me of that beautiful prayer. And now I'd like to call upon Dr. A.J. Thomas. You've heard his introduction, but I know that people keep flitting in and out of the room, so I'd like to read his introduction once again. Dr. A.J. Thomas is an Indian English poet, fiction writer and translator. He was editor of Indian literature and is guest editor now. He taught English in Benghazi University, Dabia branch, Libya, from 2008 to 2014. Is a recipient of the Katha Award, the AKMG Prize. He is Senior Fellow, Department of Culture, Government of India, and Honorary Fellow, Department of Culture, Government of South Korea. He has been guest speaker in writers' conferences and readings in South Korea thrice, Australia, Thailand, Hong Kong, and Nepal. Dr. A.J. Thomas.
Thank you, ma'am. This is actually my second turn. It's a very rare kind of gift that Dr. Anand Kumar has given me. And I thank Ajit Ji this time. She's here to listen to my poems. And I thank her from the bottom of my heart for inviting me here. And also I would like to mention that it is at the Academy of Fine Arts and Literature that I began my readings in Delhi so many years ago. 16 years ago. So this is a kind of homecoming. Yeah, this is my family, and incidentally, Sahitya Akademi, and here you have prepared a home for me again. Yeah. So I have 3 poems. I'll read the first one. The first one is titled "The Refugee." It's about a person whose days are numbered. He has a terminal illness he feels, and he is awaiting the final verdict from someone like Dr. Anand Kumar. And me and my daughter, meet him in in that kind of feeling. So it's a poem that developed after that. The Refugee. He came like a refugee from the second world, craving human company. Terminally ill, he seemed to seek vitality and hope. His past tumbling from his lips as if in a confession. He felt visibly light and relieved. Life and death, two sides of the same coin. He seemed to traverse the thin mass in between. Like a scout atop a tower who can see both sides of the railroad and the two fast approaching trains on the same track and not able to stop them, he assumed nonchalance. Destiny's immediacy and the dismay at discovering it made him seem to disbelieve his own words. Hesitantly, in a suggestive mood now, instead of falling back on the assertive ways he was obviously wont to, his days on earth defined a reminder to those who are still in the blind fray. The second poem is titled Being. It's reflections on oneself. Being. Lying diagonally in the wide bed, vaguely listening to the early morning sounds of bird chirps, an occasional car horn against the soothing murmur of the slow falling rain, the fan swirling about tempest speed, smugly detached from the ballasting past and the mirage smile of the future. 61 years of struggles and joys, blood bonds close to the heart, all suddenly a big void. The haunting prods of should have beens strangely absent, no place even for ambivalence, even individual path fading into each individual path fading into the food horizon at different directions. Somnolence spreading like a blanket, inducing weightlessness, like a kite cut loose, the mind hovering around consciousness. Life's drama unfolding before the inner eye. Is this it? And my last poem, Outing with a Languorous Demon. This particular demon is very sweet and languorous. Don't go by names and forms, that's all I can tell you. He is the most suave and alluring presence when you are under his influence. His syrupy of speech, smeared all over with unguents, his features so smooth like a flowing river. Rotten, plumb-limbed, he cushions you against his person most intimately. Once in his embrace, although you like to separate and flee, you cannot. You begin to enjoy your sweet immobility far too long that you don't realize how far away from home you have drifted, clinging to him, stuck in his armpit like an old carpet bag. Carried away by the scent of his perfume, you close your eyes in a half reverie. By and by, lethargy creeps in. You slowly discover that the scent has turned into a horrid stench. You realize you have moved far away from home. Perhaps you can still see the faint glow of the lamp at the window far away. This is when you remember to wriggle out of his grip. Don't worry, he won't resist. He has had his fill of you for the time being. He will go his way, and you, sucked out of your vitality, will drop to the ground and slouch there like a loosely filled bag. It's for you now to slowly inhale and inflate yourself to your original size. Trudge your way back home after this languorous excursion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Thomas, for reading those 3 poems. He doesn't have any others, and since the other sessions didn't have questions and answers, I think it would be unfair to have questions and answers in this session. But since there are a lot of poets, I think the suggestion, Ajit Kaurji says we can break up and have tea and talk. But Dr. Anand Kumar says we could invite maybe one poet. No poet? Ajit ji, आप पढ़िएगा? Sorry? Rinzin abhi पढ़ा उसने. अच्छा, you didn't hear. Okay, please. Rinzin. Please come in front, because Ajit ji wasn't here when you were reciting. So now you can. Please come. Yes. Because I'll go last. I think you've just heard his introduction, so I won't bore you with that. I won't, waste time. Please. Okay, all right. Okay. Then I'll.
Because the event is about Buddhism and Sufism, I'll again recite a poem which has something to do with mindfulness. Actually, the poem that I read about Mother, I really wanted Maji to hear about it, but I didn't know that she wasn't there. So the title of the poem is Before It's Too Late. It is past midnight. I should be sleeping like a log, bidding the world a thankful good night. Yet my soul barks with a dutiful dog. I wish the dog cheats at its duty, takes a break and ignores the rest. I long for my soul to just be a lighting and try not to be at its best. But just as the dog grants my humble wish, my soul, its innate morale, patronizes me, forcing my mind to leave the tales of mankind's crime against humanity and more. The consequences of our own crimes against our own kind, other co-inhabitants on Mother Earth, and against Mother Earth itself haunts. They flash in multitude in seconds short, with no sign of ceasing at all, sad. On every neuron of my brain, electrocuting my body and my soul. Atrocities, injustices, and turmoils untold, of selfish politics and failed governances, of devilish teachings and lost souls, of greedy exploitations and the dying planet. Alas, when did virtue begin to abandon man and rob him of his mindfulness? Who is stealing humanness from his heart and sowing the devil's wish in its place? Hark, I pray, do tarry a while. Let's look around, see and feel the world. Let's let humanness in our hearts rise and save ourselves and the world before it is too late. Thank you so much.
Thank you, that was beautiful. Now I'd like to invite Tenzin Sundu to sing a song. We did not hear his, he was beautiful. He spoke about himself, he spoke about the life of his parents, and these were so moving, the poems that he read. I was moved to tears. But I'd like to just read out what is written at the back of this book. Tenzin Sundu had momentary global celebrity in January 2002 when he scaled 14 floors of a Mumbai hotel to greet Zhu Rongji, then Premier of the People's Republic of China, with a Free Tibet banner and a Tibetan national flag. In India, land of his exile birth, his poems and his activist patriotism had already won him a following amongst younger, more politically aware Tibetan refugees. This second volume of poems, Stories and Opinion, takes its title from Kora, an allegory on Tibet's half-century-long struggle to break free from Chinese control. Another story, My Kind of Exile, won a major Indian literary prize for expressing the tragedy of being a Tibetan in this world. Tenzin Sundu's witty, passionate poems take us deeper into the emotions of this tragedy. This is protest poetry at its finest. Now he is going to sing a song for us. Thank you.
So there's a little bit of rendition that Tibetans usually do in opera singing. So in these operas, these are these kind of opera performances usually go on for 3, 4, 5, 6 days. These are lives of saints, kings and queens, knights, poets and writers, about their life of struggle and turmoil, keeping love and compassion at the center. Interestingly, all these characters are Indian characters, but we have dramatized this, and in between these kind of singings are done where someone is doing a monologue. So, for example, the queen is begging that the son should not be sent away. Someone who is doing the monologue is now supported by the chorus. The others will say, while the singer takes the breath in between and refreshes. High note. Now another song, this is for Ajit Kaurji. This is a song where we are saying that there is a boundary around us, and at the center of the boundary is the wish-fulfilling gem, and that wish-fulfilling gem is Avalokiteshvara, who is the Dalai Lama living among us in the world. Soyala chila chari kolayu chari chame kolayu Soyala chila chari kolayu chari chame kolayu Nanginu pushulaye, ishinu pushulaye. This is just 2 lines in praise of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who's we believe as the reincarnation of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of love and compassion. I'd like to present a small poem. It's called Horizon. So very often we see horizons both in physical travel and also in our own lives. In certain important moments we reach. By the time we get there, then we have to travel and go and see the other one. So this poem is called Horizon. From home you have reached the horizon here. From here to another, here you go. From there to the next, next to the next, horizon to horizon, every step is a horizon. Count the steps and keep the number, pick the white pebbles and funny strange leaves, mark the curves and cliffs around, for you may need to come home again. when I first started to write, I was very often having to explain the color or shape of my face and my eyes in rest of India. So very often when I'm going around, people just usually say, hey, ching chong ping pong, or Chinese kung fu karate. So, पहले बहुत गुस्सा लगता था, तो बाद में ऐसा कुछ habituation हो गया है. So then slowly I started to ask, instead of putting up any fights with them, I go talk to them, shake hands with them, and then I say, अपने अंकल के नहीं बेचेंगे. So I talk to them in Tamil. So this is how I slowly resolve that there is more than the face. There is the religion and the culture. And although I'm born and brought up, I'm a Tibetan, I am still a refugee, but I have traveled all across India. I speak 5 different languages. I can understand Marathi, a bit of Punjabi, a bit of Nepali, a bit of Ladakhi, Tibetan English and Hindi, and Tamil. So very often I boast with my Indian friends and say, I'm more Indian than you. So in one of my poems I said, I'm more of an Indian except for my chinky Tibetan face. Thank you.
Sometimes problems are no longer problems, they are blessings. So I think we've had a very wonderful session. We've heard poetry, we've heard about Buddhism, we've heard a poem from Tenzin again, and of course some songs from him. So that is, I end my role as chair there, but I do have to make an announcement. I've just been informed that if anyone is doing a PowerPoint presentation or tomorrow, or needs a laptop for the presentation, he or she should inform the FOSWAL organizers this evening. Okay. Now I was under the impression that tea was at 5:30, so I delayed. 5:50. I'm sorry, 5:50. No, it's really at 5:30. नहीं अभी आपको तो मुझे टाइम देना पड़ेगा. यहाँ लिखा हुआ सुनिए, इस किताब में लिखा हुआ है 5:30. मुझे तो बात करना है. Sethi साहब. Anyway, tea is ready, but please don't go away. I have been so generous. I promise I will not take more than my allotted time, which is 10 minutes. All right. My title is the title of my paper is Baul and Sufi Influences on Qazi Nazrul Islam. I will read because I think it's faster. In The Religion of Man, Rabindra Tagore spoke in 2 places about the Baul singers of Bengal. The influence of a Baul singer whom he heard one morning was so profound that he used the tune to write what was chosen in 1972 as the national anthem of Bangladesh. An American writer has described Tagore as the greatest of the Bauls of Bengal, but Tagore never thought of himself as a Baul. However, Qazi Nazrul Islam, who in many ways worshipped Tagore, not only saw the figure of the Baul on the landscape of Bengal, but he also imaged himself as a wandering Baul and was, like Tagore, influenced by the humanistic philosophy of the Bauls. We have been hearing this again and again and again, and there was a quotation at the inaugural session. Alimur Rahman Khan also spoke about, he also quoted from Rumi. And I'm quoting, this is from Tagore's The Religion of Man, where he talks about the Bauls. And he says, what struck me in this simple song was a religious expression. It spoke of an intense yearning of the heart for the divine which is in man and not in the temple, or scriptures in images and symbols. The worshipper addresses his songs to the man, the ideal, and says, Temples and mosques obstruct thy path, and I fail to hear thy call or to move when the teachers and priests angrily crowd round me. Poem number 119 of the Gitanjali illustrates this idea that God is to be found in one's heart or amongst the poorest of the poor. The spirit of Islam, especially the spirit of Sufi Islam, recognizes that there are differences between the way different people worship, but it stresses the humanity of all human beings. And here is a quotation which Aliwar Rahman Khan used also, but I would like to reiterate it. And the idea here is that you can look for God in the temple, in the church, in the mosque, but you will not find God there. And this is the quotation I want to give you. I looked into my heart. In that his place I saw him. He was in no other place. Mukchund Dubey has translated some of Lalan Fakir's songs into Hindi. I thought he had translated them into Urdu, but spoken Hindi and spoken Urdu sound the same. He quoted this song in Hindi. What is the religion of Lalun? And I'm not going to, if you were here, you heard his translation. In some of Nazrul's songs, the wandering baul is part of the landscape of Bengal. There are a number of poems in which Nazrul describes the land, the landscape, and the wandering baul in the landscape. But more than that, excuse me, the wandering baul was not separate from the poet, who saw himself in the guise of the wandering mendicant. In two of his songs, these songs don't have titles, so the first line serves as the title. So in one of his songs, I'm a mad baul, he says, I'm a mad baul whose body is his place of worship. The Lord of my heart does not live in a distant temple, but within me, within every joy and every sorrow. Now, some bauls, they combine Islam and Hinduism. Some of Nazrul Islam's baul songs reflect Islamic images and philosophy. Some of them reflect Hindu Vaishnavite images and philosophy. So in this song, Nazrul Islam goes on to say, he forgets Vrindavan, we would say, and Gokul when he meets or parts from me. And then another song where he imagines that Krishna or Shyam accompanies the singer on the dusty road, and the poet says, as a translation, I became a wandering baul on the dusty roads for you. My ektara, that is the instrument bauls use, sings only your songs, Shyam. I am skipping a lot. In Nazrul's most famous poem, Bidrohi, the Rebel, the poet uses images and allusions from both religions of Hinduism and Islam. He also has images from Greek mythology, from contemporary politics. He uses images and allusions, but mainly from Islam and Hinduism, to protest and rebel. However, his poems on equality, someone mentioned this, someone talked about, Ashish Nandi talked about communism and Buddhism, and there was another speaker, Dr. Sara Rao, who also talked about communism and Buddhism. And the strange thing is that it is in Nazrul's songs on communism that he is most Sufistic. These are the socialist poems. I'm going to read the Bangla title and the English title. Sammobadi, the doctrine of equality. Manush, human beings. Ishar, God, and Shammu. They are inspired by a Sufi strain, proclaiming the essential oneness of all human beings. Like the Sufi and the Baul, like Tagore as well, the poet stresses that the deity is not to be found in rituals, in holy books, or in places of worship, but in the heart of the ordinary human being. The poem Sammobadi, or the doctrine of equality, the lines go, I sing of equality in which dissolve all barriers and estrangements, in which are united Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims, Christians. I sing of equality. And then he goes on to say that why are you, filling your mind with all the scriptures? Why are you bearing the burden of all these religious books? And he names all the religious, not all, but several of the religious books, including the Tripitaka, the Zendavasta, and he goes on to the Granth Sahib, and he goes on to say, open your heart. Within you lie all the scriptures, all the wisdom of all the ages. Within you lie all the religions, all the prophets. Your heart is the universal temple of all the gods and goddesses. Excuse me. Why do you search for God in vain within the skeletons of dead scriptures when he smilingly resides in the depths of your immortal heart? And the last lines of this poem, this poem, is what I've heard, my friend, is not a lie. There's no temple or Kaaba greater than this heart. And I stop there. Thank you very much. So thank you very much. And we are only 5 minutes late for tea. And on behalf of FOSWAL and Ajit ji, I invite you all to tea outside. Thank you very much.